Hello everyone, I hope you are fine. Today's lesson is going to be about simple past tense. First of all, I would like to ask you a question. What did you do yesterday? Or what did you do last weekend? So your answers may be like this. I stayed at home, I visited my grandparents, I watched a movie, or I played video games. Now, look at these verbs here. You have the verb stayed, visited, watched, and played. Can I ask you a question? What are the changes that you can see here? Yes, we have verb, and we have something here. We have ed. We have verb plus ed. Now, these types of verbs are called regular verbs. Regular verbs. To make regular verbs in the simple past, we add ed to the base form of the verb. Now, let's see forms or different forms of regular verbs in the simple past. First, we have affirmative. I stayed at home yesterday. Now, what can you see here? As we have told you, subject plus verb plus ed for all regular verbs. Now we have negative form. To make this verb negative, the form is like this. You say, I did not stay, or I didn't stay at home. What do we have here? We have full form of did plus not, and we have here short form. So the sentence pattern is going to be like this. We have subject plus did plus not, or didn't, okay, we use the short form, plus verb. I would like to ask you a question again. Look at the verb here in the negative form. Can you compare it with the verb in the affirmative form? Here you have verb plus ed, but here we don't have ed. So when you put a verb in simple past in the negative form, you should never conjugate it. You should never put it in the simple past. We have verb in the infinitive form. For interrogatives, we have yes, no questions. Did you stay at home? You have I stayed at home. And question we have, did you stay at home? Now what do you notice here? What do? We have a kind of subject-verb inversion. And we have, what do we use again? We use did. We have did, and after you have subject, then you have the verb stay. Like infinitive, like the negative form, it is never conjugated. We should all the time remove the ed. Now, for yes, no questions, we should give a short answer. Did you stay at home? Yes, I did. Or, no, I didn't. We have yes, should have subject, we have did. For negative, we have no, plus subject, and plus didn't. For the last type of questions, we have WH questions. Now, WH questions, we know that they start with WH words. For example, where, what, who, etc. Now, here we give example with where. Where did you stay? Where did you stay? We have WH word at the beginning, plus did, of course, plus subject, then plus verb. Here again, the verb is all the time in the infinitive form. Okay, now this is concerning the form of all regular verbs. As you can see here, we have just one form for all subjects. I stayed, you stayed, he stayed, she stayed, it stayed, we stayed, you stayed, and they stayed. We have just one form. Now let's move on to the use. When do we use past simple? Look at this timeline here. What can you see? We have, this is the present, this is now, and here you have the past. Okay, you have past, then you have present. So we use past simple to talk about actions and events in the past. If you want to talk about news, if you want to talk about anything that you did last week, for example, or last year, or last summer, you use simple past. Okay, that's why the simple past is a very, very important tense in English. We all the time need it. Then we use also past simple when we have the following signal words in the sentence. For example, we have yesterday, last week, last year, last month. We have 2 years ago, and when you have a date in the past, in 1915, in 2000, etc. Okay, now this is the concerning form. Now, I would like to draw your attention to some spelling changes that regular verbs undergo when you make them into simple past. Look at this list here. We have visited. Now, we have verb plus ed. There is no change. It goes with all verbs. And here we have live, lived. Can you compare? Here we add ed, here we add just d. Okay, what do you think? Why? Because we have e at the end. So for all verbs which end with e, we add just d, not ed. We have stop. Stop in the past, stopped. What do you notice here? There is something changing. We have stop, one p, and here you have a double p. When do we use this? When we have vowel plus consonant, we double the consonants first, then we add ed. Now compare, please, play and study. Play and study. For play, we add ed, say played, but for study, we have studied. There is a change here. What do you think? Why we have this change? So compare. Here you have vowel plus y, but here you have consonant plus y. So when we have a consonant, we drop, first we drop the y, we change it into I, then we add ed. Okay, I repeat, when you have consonant plus y, we drop the y, drop it. We drop the y, drop it, then we change it into I, then we add ed. Travel in the past is traveled. There is another change here. What is it? We have a double L. When do we double the L? When we have verbs ending in L. Okay, these are the major changes you should pay attention to when you make verbs or regular verbs in the past simple. Now, the last thing we should pay attention to is pronunciation. Pronunciation of ed. How do we pronounce ed of some verbs? We have three ways here. We have t, the sound t, and the sound d, and you have id. So with verbs ending in these letters, p, f, sh, s, k, ch, we pronounce ed with the sound t. For example, we have help, helped. Watch, watched. Finish, finished. For verbs ending in b, g, v, z, m, n, l, r, y, w, th, we pronounce it d. For example, you have open, opened, play, played. The last is id. With verbs ending in t or d, we pronounce it id. For example, visit, visited, want, wanted. Okay, I think this is all you should know about irregular verbs. So let's summarize. To sum up, first, form regular verbs by adding ed to the base form of the verb. Second, use past simple for actions and events in the past. Use past simple with yesterday, last week, last year, last month, 2 weeks ago, 2 years ago, etc. Pay attention to spelling changes of some verbs. Then last, ed is pronounced in 3 different ways. It's pronounced the sound t, and the sound d, and the sound id. Okay, now the second type of verbs that you can make in the simple past is irregular verbs. Irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are called verbs with no rule. You have just to check the list and learn them by heart. Look at these 2 examples here. You have, I wrote a story last week. I swam in the pool yesterday. Now we have wrote, and you have swam. Now, if you would like to come up with the rule, it's impossible to come up with the rule. There are different changes. You have here, the verb is write, and it becomes wrote. There is a change here. You change I into O. And you have swim. We have swim. Swim. It's become swam. Okay, swim, swam. We change I into A. It means we cannot come up with the rule. I'm giving you here a list of verbs, examples of verbs. We have do, did, write, wrote, go, went, know, knew, read, read, put, buy, bought. Okay. These are just examples. Okay, now you have just to go back to your list. You find it in the book or in the internet. It's available, and you try to learn them bit by bit. And the best way for me to memorize these verbs is to put them into categories. For example, you have write, wrote, speak, spoke, break, broke, etc. Now let's end up with an exercise to practice simple past. Now, the question is this: make negative, when you have this cross, make negative and interrogative, when you make a question, sentences in the past simple. You add did or didn't. Number one, we have she finished her homework last night. You passed your driving test last Friday. They sent an email last week. Selma and Nabila go to the party. The first sentence you have a cross, which means we should make it into negative form. Now, she finished her homework last night. We can answer like this: she didn't finish her homework last night. Okay, now she didn't finish. Now this is the negative form. Number two, you have you passed your driving test last Friday. This is a question. Question, you have did you pass your driving test last Friday? Okay, number three, they sent an email last week. It's negative form. You say they didn't send an email last week. The last sentence, it's a question. Salma and Nabila go to the party. Question is this: did Salma and Nabila go to the party? Okay, now we have number one, she didn't finish her homework last night. Number two, did you pass your driving test last Friday? They didn't send an email last week. And did Salma and Nabila go to the party?